piano. Did you take a cup to you? Please check your telephones.
Okay, welcome to everybody. We are going to have this little, Wesak celebration, but behind there you see a slideshow from our trip with Michael on the year 2000 to Wesak Valley. So this is actually the Taurus full moon, Wesak, or the celebration that we were celebrating there on the real Wesak Valley. So you can have some kind of, flavor, how it is. You are going to see also this famous rock upon which the celebration, the ceremony of the masters are taking place, or as the tradition or the legend goes. We have in the center of us a stone which has been taken from that rock. So when we start to read the story, we will pass this rock through you so that you can have this kind of, is that called kinetic relationship? Also, in the center we have the double doge, what was in the center of our ceremony on that rock. So we have these little memories and also the flavor from there with us. Then we have here the water, and in that water there is also the water from the Louvre. Yes. So and we share this water with all together. So these are these little tiny things for you to have there in your minds.
And if you'll remember, the year 2000 was the year of the Shambhala impact. That's why we were there then. It's quite powerful.
And there was now the image of two lakes. It is very interesting, these two lakes which are high up there. The other one is salty lake, and the Manasarova, I think Manasarova is the one which is the sweet lake, and it is said that it is the highest sweet lake. Do you say that in English like that? Yeah, fresh water. Yes, and the other one is salty. And they say that like the other one is the shape of the moon. I don't remember the name of that lake. And then Manasarova is like the circle. So they think that this there is sun and moon together. And the Wesak is the moment of sun and moon marriage, alchemical marriage. And there you see the Kailash. And you see a little tiny pyramid on the left side of Kailash that is called Nandi. And also it is said that there is now the evil or the devil with whom Buddha was battling with and saving humanity, that this evil is stored or in prison in that little tiny mountain peak, which is called also Nandi. There are 4 footsteps around Kailash, and there was one of those which are said to happen then when Buddha was battling with that devil. And the rock itself, you are going to see, or maybe you have seen that already, it is really huge. It's not some little stone, it's huge. Maybe Michael can say that in feet how big it would be.
Well, you had to climb up, and it took 5 minutes to get there at least. And then it was
so in meters, about
long,
300 meters. So that if that can be translated, so it is really, really big. And there you see Kailash again.
There were many people traveling around Kailash. Takes about 2 days, and some were prostrating themselves every few steps.
Meaning that they have been starting from some city and doing that. So for some people it takes years to come to Kailash, or then go around Kailash.
Months around.
Right. So we met few people prostrating the way, and it's really beautiful, the energy when you pass this kind of pilgrims. And also it's said that Mount Kailash is Mount Meru, the axis mundi, the tree of life, or the tree of world, connecting these 3 dimensions, the lower worlds and the present world, or the human worlds and then the heavenly worlds. So now we are passing also the stone. If you want to bless it. There is a valley lying at a rather high altitude in the foothills of the Himalayan Tibet ranges. It is surrounded by high mountains on all sides except towards the northeast, where there is a narrow opening in the mountain ranges. The valley is bottle-shaped in contour, with the neck of the bottle to the northeast, and it widens very considerably towards the south. Up towards the northern end, close the neck of the bottle, there is a huge flat rock. There are no trees or shrubs in the valley, which is covered with a kind of coarse grass.
Approaching the time of the full moon of Taurus, pilgrims from the surrounding districts begin to gather. The holy men and the lamas find their way into the valley and fill the southern and the middle parts, leaving the northeastern end relatively free. There, so the legend runs, gathers a group of those great beings who are the custodians on earth of God's plan for our planet and for humanity.
This group of knowers of divinity are the main participants in the Wesak festival. They arrange themselves in the northeastern end of the valley, in concentric circles, and prepare for a great act of service. In front of the rock, looking towards the northeast, stand those beings who are called by their disciples the three great lords. They are the Christ, who stands in the center, the Lord of living forms, the Manu, who stands at his right, and the Lord of civilization, who stands to his left. These three face the rock upon which rests a great crystal bowl full of water.
Behind the grouped masters, adepts, initiates, and senior workers under God's plan are to be found the world disciples and aspirants in their various grades and groups, either in the body or out of the body, who at this time constitute the new group of world servers. Those present in their physical bodies have found their way there by ordinary means. Others are present in their spiritual bodies and in the dream states. The dream, which they later relate, has been uniformly registered by people throughout the world and bears the testimony to the recollection of an inner spiritual happening.
As the hour of the full moon approaches, a stillness settles down upon the crowd, and all look towards the northeast. Certain ritualistic movements take place in which the grouped masters and their disciples of all ranks take up symbolic positions and form on the floor of the valley such significant symbols as the five-pointed star, with the Christ standing at the highest point of a triangle with the Christ at the apex, or a cross, and other well-known formations, all of which have a deep and potent meaning. This is all done to the sound of certain chanted words and esoteric phrases called mantras.
The expectancy in the waiting, onlooking crowd becomes very great, and the tension is real and increasing. Through the entire body of people, there seems to be felt a stimulation or potent vibration which has the effect of awakening the souls of those present, fusing and blending the group into one united whole, and lifting all into a great act of spiritual demand, readiness, and expectancy. It is the climax of the world's aspiration, focused in this waiting group. These three words, demand, readiness, and expectancy, best describe the atmosphere surrounding those present in this secret valley.
The chanting and the rhythmic weaving grows stronger, and all the participants and the watching crowd raise their eyes towards the sky in the direction of the narrow part of the valley. Just a few minutes before the exact time of the full moon, in the far distance, a tiny speck can be seen in the sky. It comes nearer and nearer, and grows in clarity and definiteness of outline, until the form of the Buddha can be seen. Seated in the cross-legged Buddha position, clad in his saffron-colored robe, bathed in light and color, and with his hand extended in a blessing.
When the Buddha arrives at a point exactly over the great rock, hovering there in the air over the heads of the three great lords, a great mantram used only once a year at the festival is intoned by the Christ, and the entire group of people in the valley fall upon their faces. This invocation sets up a great vibration or thought current, which is of such potency that it reaches up from the group of aspirants, disciples, and initiates who employ it to the being we know as God. It marks the supreme moment of intensive spiritual effort throughout the entire year, and the spiritual vitalization of humanity and the spiritual effects last throughout the succeeding months.
The effect of this great invocation is universal or cosmic, and serves to link us up with that cosmic center of spiritual force from which all created beings have come. The blessing is poured forth, and the Christ, as the representative of humanity, receives it in trust for distribution. Thus, so the legend runs, the Buddha returns once a year to bless the world, transmitting renewed spiritual life through the Christ. Slowly, then the Buddha recedes into the distance, until again only a faint speck can be seen in the sky, and this eventually disappears. The whole ceremonial blessing, from the time of the first appearance in the distance until the moment the Buddha fades out of view, take just 8 minutes.
The Buddha's annual sacrifice for humanity, for he comes back only at great cost, is over. And he returns again to that high place where he works and waits. Year after year he comes back in blessing. Year after year he and his great brother, the Christ, work in the closest cooperation for the spiritual benefit of humanity. In these two great sons of God have been focused two aspects of divine life, and they act together as custodians of the divine life. They act together as custodians of the highest type of spiritual force to which our humanity can respond. Through the Buddha, the wisdom of God is poured forth. Through the Christ, the love of God is manifested in humanity. And it is this wisdom and love which pour forth upon humanity each Wesak full moon.
When the Buddha has again disappeared, the crowd rise to their feet. The water in the bowl is distributed in tiny portions to the masters, initiates, and disciples, and they then go their way to their place of service. The crowd, who have all brought their little cups and vessels of water, drink of them and share with others. In this beautiful water ceremony of communion, is portrayed the symbol of the new age, which is upon us, the Aquarian age, the age of the water carrier. In this ceremony is perpetuated for us the story of the universal of God's love, the need for our individual purification, and the opportunity to share with each other that which belongs to all. The water which has been magnetized by the presence of the Buddha and of the Christ carries certain properties and virtues of a healing and helpful nature. And thus blessed, the crowd silently disperses.
And this is taken from Alice Bailey's Wesak festival, a technique of spiritual contact. And if anybody needs water for cough or whatever, see if we can get that to the people that need it. So, at this time, seek to imagine yourself as one of the pilgrims gathering in the valley before the event begins.
We may visualize these symbols that the masters and the initiates are doing. If you can have some sense and feeling to that beautiful plateau, the valley, it is really incredible. When we stepped into the valley, the sky was crystal clear and lark was singing. The formations that the masters are doing, 5-pointed star, expressing the perfected man and the destiny of humanity. Christ being in the highest point. And this group moving gracefully into the formation of the triangle. Again, Christ being in the highest point in apex. And this symbol can bring us many meanings of the Trinity, the triangle work, towards the humanity is moving at the moment. And also the cross, which is revealing and hinting for us the speeded up initiation process on earth among humanity and humanity itself, preparing the first initiation. Opening the first time on our globe and chain the door to the kingdom of God.
And Alice Bailey realized when she was transported into this ceremony as one who was on the floor of the valley, that all were arranged according to their spiritual development. The ones closest to the rock, to the hierarchy, were the initiates, followed by the disciples, followed by the aspirants, and then the people who simply attended. So as you place yourself there, as if projecting yourself into the valley, keep this order in mind.
Master D.K. says in Externalization of the Hierarchy, page 286, at the time of this Wesak festival, I would call your attention to the fact that the annual return of the Buddha to bless his people everywhere and to convey the message of wisdom, light and love to humanity, coming as he does from the very heart of deity itself, is the outer evidence and guarantee of inner divine guidance and revelation in this present world cycle of 2,500 years. Year by year he returns. For a brief minute he reminds us that God exists and ever loves, that he is not unmindful of his people, that the heart of the universe is unalterable compassion, and that man is not alone. To bring this recognition about and to make this appearance possible, a living triangle of energy is created and focused through three great spiritual individuals who evoke recognition both in the East and in the West. They are known to be believers of every faith and all nationalities. These three are the Lord of the world, the Ancient of Days, Sanat Kumara, the planetary Logos, Melchizedek, he to whom Christ referred when he said, I and my Father are one. The Buddha, the illumined one, the revealer of the light and the wisdom which come to us from sources far greater than our planetary life, a messenger of the gods. and the Christ, the Son of the Father, the world's Savior, the Redeemer, He who has remained with us and who is gathering His sheep into His fold, the Lord of love. In these three, whose nature is radiant love and light, humanity can grasp in some measure the nature of divinity.
Now, we're going to have silence And when the time 4 minutes before the full moon comes, the bowl will sound, and at the moment of the full moon, the bowl will sound, and 4 minutes after, the bowl will sound again. And we will be in silence these approximately 15 minutes. So, according to your inner work, you can proceed. And now we're going to each take our little cup, and Tuya will be, I believe,
Joanna will.
Joanna will, okay. Dispensing just a little bit of water, which you can retain until we all have the opportunity to take it together. So I think we'll try to leave this open, and maybe we'll start from the back row. And Joanna? The back row can rise and follow around.
Dearest friends, you are able to get more water afterwards. I'm sure we have plenty of water.
second row. So everyone has their water?
We have to stand up.
And you can say what you would like to say. So, this magnetized water, with the wisdom of the Buddha and the love of the Christ, in line with the great shambolic purpose and the will therefrom, we dedicate ourselves to full cooperation with these great powers so that the hierarchy may externalize, the Christ may return to earth, and the divine plan be consummated on our planet.
For the one life. And as you can see, there is more than half left. So it really means that please come afterwards and empty the bowl.
I was scared.
Or is it, that might be eternal water? You know, in the center of Shambhala it pours.
The eternal fountain of youth.
So we will sing together. Great invocation. blessed, happy Wesak. And you have more water. Please, please.
What did they say? A minute portion. You did very well.
Please.